Hi guys, welcome to Powerful Stoic Way. In today's video, we're diving into how you can master your emotions through Stoic philosophy and build the resilience you need to thrive. Emotions can be overwhelming, but Stoicism offers timeless wisdom to help us respond wisely and maintain our inner peace. If you're ready to unlock the power of Stoicism to transform your life, stay tuned for 10 practical ways to use this ancient philosophy to master your emotions. So let's go check it out. Don't forget to subscribe to Powerful Stoic Way for more transformative Stoic wisdom and personal growth tips. Number 1. Understand what you can control. Understanding what you can control is the foundation of Stoic philosophy and emotional mastery. We often experience stress, frustration, and anxiety when we focus on things outside of our control. The Stoics teach us that while we can't control the external world, we have absolute control over how we respond to it. The difference between what we can control and what we cannot is the key to emotional resilience. In any situation, the external circumstances are usually beyond our influence. Whether it's the actions of others, the weather, or the outcome of an event, we can't directly change these things. Yet our natural tendency is to try to control these external factors. And when we inevitably fail, it leaves us feeling helpless and frustrated. This focus on the uncontrollable is the root of much of our emotional distress. Stoic philosophy flips this perspective by urging us to turn our focus inward. What we can control is our reaction, our choices, and our mindset. For example, if someone cuts us off in traffic, we can't control their actions, but we can control how we react. Whether we get angry and upset or choose to let it go and continue with our day peacefully. The Stoics emphasize the importance of realizing that our emotional responses are a result of our judgments, not the events themselves. By focusing on what we can control, our own thoughts, actions, and reactions, we start to take responsibility for our emotional state. If we feel frustration rising, it's because we've judged the situation as something negative. However, if we change our judgment and instead choose to see the situation as something neutral, our emotional response will shift as well. This is where the true power lies, in choosing how we perceive and respond to the events around us. This is also true when facing difficult or uncontrollable situations, like an illness or the loss of a job. These are events outside our control, but how we handle them is entirely up to us. We can choose to face challenges with a sense of calm acceptance, seeing them as opportunities for growth, or we can react with panic and despair. The Stoics teach that it is not the situation itself that causes our suffering, but our attachment to it and our resistance to the reality of what is happening. Learning to focus on what we can control does not mean that we ignore or suppress our emotions. Rather, it means recognizing that while emotions are natural, our reactions to them are within our control. When we learn to respond to situations with wisdom and reason, rather than impulsively or emotionally, we gain a sense of empowerment and emotional stability. The more we practice this understanding, recognizing what we can control and what we can't, the more we begin to live with a sense of inner peace. We stop giving away our emotional energy to things that are beyond our power, and we begin to develop the resilience to face life's challenges with clarity, calmness, and strength. Understanding what you can control is the first step toward mastering your emotions and living a life of true Stoic wisdom. Number 2, practice negative visualization. Negative visualization is a powerful Stoic practice that helps us build resilience by preparing ourselves mentally for challenges and losses. The idea behind this practice is simple. Imagine the worst possible scenario, not to dwell in fear or anxiety, but to accept and prepare for adversity. By visualizing potential hardships, we reduce the emotional impact they might have when they actually occur, and we begin to appreciate what we have in the present moment. At its core, negative visualization involves consciously thinking about the things we fear losing. This could be anything from our health, to our job, to our relationships, or even our possessions. The purpose isn't to obsess over these losses, but to acknowledge that everything we hold dear is temporary and subject to change. When we accept that loss is a natural part of life, we become less likely to take things for granted and more resilient when change inevitably comes. Imagine, for example, that you're worried about losing a loved one. Rather than avoid the thought or push it away, Negative visualization encourages you to sit with that fear. Reflect on the possibility of that loss and how you might handle it. This doesn't mean wallowing in sorrow or pessimism, but rather preparing yourself mentally and emotionally. By doing so, you realize that you have the capacity to endure difficult circumstances and that even in the face of loss, you can choose how to respond. The Stoics believe that this practice helps us develop gratitude and a deeper appreciation for the present moment. When you visualize the worst-case scenario and then realize it hasn't happened yet, you become more grateful for what you still have. This practice also prevents us from becoming complacent or overly attached to the things we value. By accepting that everything is temporary, we create a healthy detachment that allows us to handle change more gracefully. Negative visualization also teaches us to expect hardship rather than be blindsided by it. We all experience setbacks in life, whether it's losing a job, going through a breakup, or facing a health crisis. These events are inevitable, yet many of us live in denial or fear of them. By regularly practicing negative visualization, we prepare ourselves mentally for these moments, making it easier to face them when they come. Instead of reacting with shock or despair, we respond with resilience and understanding, knowing that we have already mentally processed these scenarios. This practice doesn't mean we should focus only on negativity. It's about balance and perspective. By mentally preparing for loss, we develop emotional strength and the ability to handle life's difficulties with more grace. It also frees us from the anxiety of imagining the worst because we've already imagined it and accepted it as part of life. We learn that no matter what happens, we have the inner strength to navigate through challenges. To practice negative visualization, take a few minutes each day to sit quietly and think about what you fear losing. Imagine the worst-case scenario happening, and then reflect on how you would cope with it. By repeatedly doing this, you not only prepare for difficult times, but also cultivate a deeper sense of appreciation for the present moment and everything you currently have. By incorporating negative visualization into your daily life, you build mental resilience, reduce anxiety, and increase gratitude. It's a reminder that even in the face of loss, we have the power to choose our response, and that's where true strength lies. Number 3, focus on virtue, not external validation. Stoics, focusing on virtue, not external validation, is a central teaching in Stoic philosophy. It's about shifting our attention away from the approval of others and instead placing it on the cultivation of good character and moral integrity. The Stoics believe that true happiness comes from living in alignment with virtue, not from external rewards, praise, or recognition. In our modern world, it's easy to fall into the trap of seeking external validation. We often measure our worth based on how others perceive us, how many likes or followers we have on social media, or whether we receive praise or accolades for our achievements. This constant craving for approval can lead to anxiety, insecurity, and a sense of emptiness because ultimately, external validation is fleeting and unreliable. The Stoics, however, taught that our worth and happiness should not be contingent on the opinions or judgments of others. Instead, we should focus on developing and living according to virtues like wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Virtue for the Stoics is the only true good. It's an internal compass that guides us to act in a way that is honorable, fair, and rational, regardless of how others might react or whether they even notice. When we focus on virtue, we begin to prioritize what is truly important, our character and actions, over what others think of us. For example, when we face challenges, instead of seeking approval for how we handle them, we focus on doing what is right and just, regardless of the outcome. Whether or not someone praises us for acting with integrity is irrelevant. What matters is that we are living in alignment with our values and acting virtuously in the moment. This shift in focus not only leads to greater emotional resilience, but it also frees us from the need for constant approval and validation. When we live according to our values, we build a sense of self-worth that is independent of external factors. No longer do we have to rely on others to tell us we are doing well or that we are enough. We know from within that we are living rightly, and that is the ultimate form of self-validation. Take, for example, a situation where you are faced with a difficult decision at work or in your personal life. The temptation might be to act in a way that will gain approval from others, to say what they want to hear or to take the path that's easiest and most popular. But if you focus on virtue, you choose to act based on what is morally right, even if it's difficult or unpopular. The approval of others is secondary to your internal sense of right and wrong. Focusing on virtue also helps us manage our emotions. When we stop measuring our success by external rewards, we reduce the emotional turbulence that comes from constantly chasing praise or fearing criticism. Whether we succeed or fail, whether others recognize our efforts or not, we can take comfort in knowing that we acted according to our values. The Stoics believe that we cannot control the actions or opinions of others, but we can control our own behavior. By focusing on cultivating virtue, we shift our attention away from what is outside of our control and instead place it on what we can influence, our own character and our decisions. In practical terms, this means daily reflection and mindfulness about how we are living our lives. Are we acting with wisdom, fairness, and integrity? Are we doing the right thing because it is the right thing, not because it will win us approval? By consistently focusing on virtue, we align ourselves with the Stoic ideal of living a life of purpose, meaning, and true fulfillment. At last, the Stoic approach teaches us that true happiness comes not from external validation, but from living a life of virtue. When we focus on what we can control, our own actions and character, we free ourselves from the endless cycle of seeking approval from others and instead cultivate a deep, lasting sense of inner peace and contentment. 4. Reframe your perspective. Reframing your perspective is a powerful Stoic technique that involves changing the way you perceive a situation in order to transform its emotional impact. Stoics understood that it's not the events themselves that cause us distress, but how we interpret them. By shifting our perspective, we can change the way we feel and react to challenges, turning potential setbacks into opportunities for growth. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This statement highlights the key idea behind reframing. We can't always control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. Our thoughts and beliefs about an event shape our emotions, and by adjusting those thoughts, we can adjust our emotional experience. For example, imagine you lose your job. At first, this might feel like a devastating event, a personal failure, or a reason to panic. But if you apply reframing, you might choose to see it differently. Instead of viewing it as a negative event, you could reframe it as an opportunity to explore new career paths, learn new skills, or even take time to rest and reflect. By changing the way you interpret the situation, you shift your emotional response from one of despair to one of possibility and action. Reframing doesn't mean ignoring the challenges or pretending that difficulties don't exist. Rather, it's about recognizing that you have the power to view those difficulties in a way that empowers you rather than one that keeps you stuck in negativity. In Stoic terms, this is about using dichotomy of control, understanding what's within your control, your response, and what's outside your control, the situation itself. While you can't control the job loss, you can control how you approach the next steps. The Stoics also use reframing to deal with discomfort and adversity. For example, Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, frequently reminded himself that challenges were part of life's natural order. When facing difficulties, he would reframe them as opportunities to practice virtues like patience, endurance, and wisdom. By adopting this mindset, he could face adversity with a sense of calm, knowing that every challenge was a chance to grow in virtue. Reframing also helps with day-to-day frustrations. Consider something as simple as waiting in a long line or dealing with a rude customer service representative. Rather than becoming irritated or upset, you can reframe the situation by telling yourself that it's an opportunity to practice patience or a reminder that not everything in life goes according to plan. This shift in perspective doesn't make the situation disappear, but it does transform your emotional reaction to it. In the Stoic tradition, reframing is an ongoing practice. It requires mindfulness and the willingness to challenge your automatic thoughts. When something goes wrong, instead of jumping to conclusions or reacting impulsively, take a moment to pause and ask yourself, how can I see this differently? What's within my control here? By developing this habit, you begin to rewire your thinking, making it easier to maintain peace and clarity in the face of life's challenges. Ultimately, reframing your perspective helps you build emotional resilience. It empowers you to approach life's difficulties with a sense of agency and control, knowing that your thoughts and interpretations are within your power. By focusing on how you respond rather than on the events themselves, you can find peace, even in the midst of adversity. This is the core of Stoic wisdom. We cannot control everything that happens to us, but we can control how we choose to see and respond to it. Number 5, accept what happens with equanimity. Accept what happens with equanimity is a central principle in Stoic philosophy that encourages us to cultivate a calm and balanced mind, regardless of what life throws our way. Equanimity refers to maintaining emotional stability, composure, and serenity, even in the face of challenges, disappointments, or unexpected events. The Stoics believe that while we cannot control external events, we have complete control over how we respond to them. By embracing this mindset, we learn to accept whatever happens with grace and clarity. In life, things don't always go according to plan. We face setbacks, loss, and obstacles that seem outside of our control. It's easy to become frustrated or overwhelmed when things don't turn out the way we expect. But the Stoics teach us that resistance to what is happening only creates more suffering. Instead of fighting against the reality of the present moment, Stoicism urges us to accept it as it is, without judgment or distress. One of the core teachings of Stoicism is the understanding that external events are not inherently good or bad. It's our judgment and emotional reactions to those events that determine how we experience them. For example, if we face a challenge, we might feel anger or fear. But if we learn to accept the situation with equanimity, we shift our focus from the event itself to how we choose to respond. This acceptance doesn't mean resignation or passivity. It means recognizing that the event has happened, and we have the power to choose how we engage with it. Imagine facing a difficult situation, such as the loss of a job or a personal setback. It's natural to feel disappointed or upset, but rather than getting consumed by negative emotions, accepting the situation with equanimity allows you to step back and gain perspective. Instead of dwelling on what could have been or wishing for things to be different, you embrace the reality of the moment and begin to look at how you can move forward. This practice allows you to maintain your peace of mind, even when things are challenging. The Stoics believe that by accepting what happens with equanimity, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. When we resist or resent what is outside our control, we create internal conflict and distress. Acceptance, on the other hand, brings peace. It's the understanding that life is unpredictable, and the only thing we can control is our attitude toward what happens. By accepting the present moment without resistance, we can respond with clarity, focus, and calm. It's also important to note that acceptance doesn't mean we stop striving to improve or change our circumstances. It means that we don't let the uncontrollable aspects of life take away our inner peace. When we practice equanimity, we learn to navigate difficulties without being ruled by them. We acknowledge the reality of the situation and take thoughtful, measured actions based on our values, instead of reacting impulsively from a place of frustration or fear. Equanimity is also about accepting ourselves as we are, without judgment or harsh self-criticism. The Stoics believed in self-reflection and improvement, but they also emphasized that we should accept our flaws and mistakes with understanding and compassion. When we approach life with equanimity, we approach ourselves with the same balance. Not too harsh, not too lenient, but with acceptance of who we are in the present moment. By accepting what happens with equanimity, we develop emotional resilience. We learn to navigate life's challenges with calm, wisdom, and composure. When we stop fighting against the things we can't control and embrace the present moment, we create the space for growth, learning, and a deeper sense of inner peace. This practice is at the heart of Stoic tranquility, to remain steady no matter the storm, if you listen of this point. Drop a comment, I am here. Number 6, practice mindfulness of your emotions. Practice mindfulness of your emotions is a crucial concept in Stoic philosophy that helps us gain control over our emotional responses and develop greater self-awareness. Emotions are a natural part of being human, but how we experience and respond to them is within our control. The Stoics believed that by practicing mindfulness of our emotions, we can prevent ourselves from being overwhelmed by them and instead choose how to react in a way that aligns with reason and virtue. Mindfulness of emotions means paying close attention to our feelings without judgment or reactivity. Rather than letting emotions dictate our actions, we develop the ability to observe them as they arise, understand their causes, and respond thoughtfully. This practice allows us to create a space between the emotion and our response, giving us the power to choose how to act in a given situation. For example, when we feel anger rising in response to an unjust situation, instead of immediately reacting with frustration or hostility, mindfulness helps us step back and ask ourselves, why am I feeling this way? What is the root cause of this emotion? Is this reaction in line with my values and principles? This pause allows us to see the emotion clearly without being swept away by it. In this way, mindfulness helps us respond with calmness and clarity instead of reacting impulsively. The Stoics also believe that emotions are often the result of misguided judgments. When we feel angry, anxious, or sad, it is typically because we have attached value to something external, something we can't control, and have allowed it to disturb our peace. By practicing mindfulness, we can recognize these emotional triggers and adjust our judgments. For example, we might become upset over a missed opportunity, thinking that it's a personal failure. But through mindfulness, we can reframe this judgment and see it as an opportunity for growth, a lesson in resilience, or a chance to try again. Mindfulness of emotions is not about suppressing or ignoring them. It's about acknowledging them and accepting them as they are, without letting them control us. Emotions like anger, fear, and sadness are part of the human experience, and it's important not to deny their existence. Instead, mindfulness allows us to relate to these emotions in a healthy way, so that we don't become consumed by them. We recognize that while emotions are temporary and natural, they don't have to define our actions or our state of mind. In practice, mindfulness of emotions requires self-awareness and reflection. It involves regularly checking in with yourself throughout the day. How am I feeling right now? What's causing these feelings? Am I acting from a place of clarity, or am I reacting out of impulse? By doing this, we begin to identify emotional patterns, triggers, and recurring thoughts that shape our emotional responses. This awareness gives us the opportunity to shift our mindset and choose more constructive ways of dealing with difficult emotions. One of the Stoic practices that supports mindfulness of emotions is journaling. By writing down our thoughts and feelings, we can reflect on our emotional experiences and gain insight into what triggers certain responses. Journaling allows us to observe our emotional reactions from a distance, helping us detach from them and view them objectively. Over time, this practice helps us build emotional intelligence and emotional resilience, enabling us to handle difficult situations with greater composure and wisdom. When we practice mindfulness of our emotions, we also cultivate a deeper sense of self-compassion. We stop berating ourselves for feeling certain emotions and instead accept them as part of our humanity. This acceptance is key to managing our emotions effectively. By treating ourselves with kindness and understanding, we prevent ourselves from becoming overwhelmed by negative feelings and create the space to choose more virtuous, thoughtful responses. Ultimately, practicing mindfulness of our emotions leads to greater emotional mastery. We stop being controlled by our feelings and start responding to them in a way that aligns with our Stoic values: wisdom, patience, and self-control. Through this practice, we learn to navigate the ups and downs of life with clarity and equanimity, facing challenges with a steady mind and a peaceful heart. Number 7, use the dichotomy of control in relationships. Using the dichotomy of control in relationships is a powerful Stoic practice that helps us navigate the complexities of human interactions with greater peace and resilience. The dichotomy of control, a core concept in Stoicism, teaches us that while we cannot control the actions, thoughts, or feelings of others, we can control our own responses, attitudes, and behaviors. This understanding is crucial in relationships as it frees us from the frustration of trying to change others and allows us to focus on what we can control: our own actions and reactions. In any relationship, whether it's with a partner, friend, family member, or colleague, conflicts and disagreements are inevitable. People have different perspectives, needs, and behaviors, and trying to control or change someone else's behavior often leads to frustration, resentment, and even strain in the relationship. By applying the dichotomy of control, we learn to accept the limitations of our influence over others and focus instead on how we can respond in a way that aligns with our values. For example, imagine a situation where a close friend or partner behaves in a way that bothers you. It could be a simple disagreement or a deeper issue that challenges your sense of fairness or understanding. The natural impulse might be to try to change their behavior, to get them to see things from your point of view, or to act the way you think they should. However, the Stoic approach is to recognize that we cannot control their actions or thoughts. What we can control is how we respond to the situation. Instead of reacting impulsively with anger, frustration, or manipulation, the dichotomy of control encourages us to choose our response mindfully. We can express our feelings calmly and respectfully, focusing on how we communicate rather than on trying to force the other person to change. We can decide whether to let go of the issue or set healthy boundaries, depending on what aligns with our values in the overall health of the relationship. Applying the dichotomy of control in relationships also means understanding that everyone is responsible for their own emotions and actions. If someone behaves in a way that is hurtful or disrespectful, it's easy to fall into the trap of taking on their emotional burden. However, by acknowledging that their actions are beyond our control, we release ourselves from the responsibility of managing their emotions or behavior. We can only control how we choose to respond and whether we engage with their actions constructively or detach from toxic patterns that undermine the relationship. This practice also helps us manage expectations in relationships. Often, we have unrealistic expectations of others, believing that they should always meet our needs or act in ways that make us happy. When these expectations are not met, we feel disappointed or resentful. The dichotomy of control teaches us to focus on what we can control in relationships: our own actions, how we treat others, and how we express our needs. Instead of waiting for others to change, we focus on how we can improve ourselves and respond with compassion, patience, and understanding. For instance, if we are in a disagreement with someone, applying the dichotomy of control means recognizing that we can't control their response or opinion. What we can control is our ability to listen, to express ourselves respectfully, and to remain open-minded. This shift in perspective can help de-escalate conflicts, leading to more harmonious and productive interactions. Using the dichotomy of control in relationships also encourages emotional detachment, not in a cold or indifferent way, but in a way that promotes inner peace. By acknowledging that we can't control how others feel or behave, we avoid the emotional turbulence that comes from constantly trying to influence or change others. We can engage with others authentically, knowing that our peace of mind is not dependent on their actions. This detachment allows us to maintain our emotional stability while still caring deeply for others. Consummately, the dichotomy of control in relationships helps us foster healthier, more resilient connections. It teaches us to focus on what we can control: our own behavior, communication, and emotional responses, and to let go of the unrealistic expectation that we can change others. By applying this Stoic principle, we free ourselves from unnecessary frustration and cultivate more understanding, patience, and compassion in our relationships. This in turn allows us to create deeper, more fulfilling connections with others while preserving our peace and emotional well-being. Number 8, don't let complaints or regret rule. You don't let complaints or regret rule you is a powerful Stoic principle that encourages us to break free from the trap of dwelling on past mistakes or complaints about current circumstances. The Stoics believe that constantly focusing on what's wrong in our lives or regretting past actions only drains our energy, increases frustration, and prevents us from taking constructive action. Instead, we should accept what is outside our control, learn from our experiences, and focus on the present moment and what we can do now to live a virtuous life. Complaining is a natural impulse when we feel dissatisfied with the way things are. It can seem comforting to vent about our frustrations or to blame external circumstances for our problems. However, the Stoic perspective reminds us that complaining doesn't change anything. It doesn't improve the situation, and it doesn't make us any happier. In fact, the more we complain, the more we reinforce negative thinking and limit our ability to see solutions. Instead of complaining, Stoicism teaches us to take responsibility for our own mindset and actions. If something is within our control, we can take steps to change it. If it's beyond our control, we can choose to accept it without resistance. Complaining about things we cannot change only wastes energy that could be better spent on finding productive ways to deal with challenges. By reframing our perspective and focusing on solutions rather than problems, we cultivate a sense of agency and empowerment over our own lives. The same principle applies to regret. It's natural to look back and wish we had acted differently in certain situations. We all have moments where we've made mistakes, hurt others, or failed to live up to our own expectations. However, dwelling on regret only keeps us trapped in the past and prevents us from moving forward. The Stoics emphasize that regret is a form of self-inflicted suffering that takes us away from the present moment and our capacity to act wisely in the future. Rather than being consumed by regret, Stoicism teaches us to learn from our mistakes and use them as opportunities for growth. Every mistake or failure can be a lesson if we approach it with the right mindset. Instead of seeing past errors as something to regret, we can view them as a valuable part of our personal development. By focusing on the present and the actions we can take now, we release the hold that regret has on us and free ourselves to grow. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, often reminded himself not to waste time regretting the past or complaining about the present. In his meditations, he wrote that the things that upset us are often within our control to change, or if not, they are simply the nature of life. He encouraged himself to focus on what he could do today, how he could live virtuously in the present, and how he could respond thoughtfully to challenges. When we stop letting complaints and regret rule us, we develop emotional resilience and greater clarity. We stop waiting for external circumstances to change or for the past to be different, and instead we focus on what we can control, our actions, our attitudes, and how we move forward. This shift in focus helps us maintain peace of mind as we realize that we have the power to respond to life's challenges in a constructive way. Taking this approach also means embracing a mindset of acceptance. We acknowledge that life is imperfect and that mistakes and disappointments are inevitable. By accepting this reality, we free ourselves from the need to complain or regret, and instead we focus on how we can act virtuously in every situation, no matter how difficult. Acceptance of what has happened and what is happening in the present moment leads to a deeper sense of inner peace and emotional stability. At last, the Stoic advice to not let complaints or regret rule us is about cultivating mindfulness and self-awareness. We stop allowing external circumstances or past mistakes to define our emotional state. Instead, we take control of our mindset and focus on what's in our power, how we respond, what we learn, and how we grow. This practice empowers us to live more fully in the present, free from the grip of negative thinking, and opens the door to greater peace, happiness, and resilience. Number 9, engage in daily reflection. Engage in daily reflection is a key Stoic practice that allows us to cultivate self-awareness, improve our decision-making, and foster personal growth. The Stoics believed that regular self-reflection was essential for living a virtuous life and developing wisdom. By taking time each day to reflect on our thoughts, actions, and experiences, we gain valuable insight into our behavior, learn from our mistakes, and reaffirm our commitment to living in accordance with our values. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." This quote highlights the tendency to overthink situations or become trapped by negative thoughts. Daily reflection offers a way to step back from this mental noise and assess our thoughts and actions more clearly. By reflecting on the events of the day, we can determine if we have acted in alignment with our principles and identify areas where we can improve. Each day provides countless opportunities to learn and grow. Without taking time to reflect, we might miss the lessons that daily experiences offer. Reflection allows us to process what happened throughout the day, how we interacted with others, how we managed challenges, how we stayed true to our values, and where we may have fallen short. By reviewing our actions, we can become more mindful and intentional in how we live, making adjustments for the future. A Stoic practice of daily reflection can be done in many ways, but journaling is one of the most popular and effective methods. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, famously kept a private journal in which he recorded his thoughts, struggles, and reflections on life. His meditations became a timeless collection of Stoic wisdom, full of personal insights and reminders to stay grounded in virtue. Journaling allows us to capture our thoughts in writing, helping us clarify our thinking and make sense of the day's experiences. When engaging in daily reflection, it's important to approach the practice with honesty and humility. This is not about judging ourselves harshly or criticizing every mistake, but about understanding our actions and thoughts with clarity and self-compassion. Reflecting on what went well can be just as valuable as acknowledging where we could have done better. Celebrating small victories and moments of virtue helps us reinforce positive behavior, while recognizing our shortcomings allows us to grow and improve. An effective way to approach reflection is to ask ourselves questions like, did I act in accordance with my values today? Was I patient, kind, and thoughtful in my interactions? How did I respond to challenges or setbacks? What could I have done differently? By posing these questions, we can identify patterns in our behavior and gain insight into the areas of our lives that may need more attention or development. In Stoic philosophy, reflection is not meant to lead to self-criticism, but rather to self-improvement. It's an opportunity to understand ourselves better, to recognize what's within our control, and to work on becoming the best version of ourselves. Daily reflection encourages us to live consciously and with purpose, rather than letting life pass by in a blur of unexamined actions. The benefits of daily reflection extend beyond personal growth. It also helps us cultivate emotional resilience. By reviewing difficult moments, we can see them from a new perspective, learning how we responded to adversity and how we might handle similar challenges more effectively in the future. Reflection helps us process emotions, reduce stress, and avoid reacting impulsively. Over time, this leads to a greater sense of inner peace and self-mastery. In addition, daily reflection strengthens our sense of purpose. It reminds us of the bigger picture, the values, goals, and principles that guide our lives. When we take time to reflect, we reconnect with our long-term vision and ensure that our daily actions align with that vision. This alignment creates a sense of fulfillment and helps us stay focused on what truly matters, rather than getting distracted by external pressures or fleeting desires. Engaging in daily reflection is about taking responsibility for our own growth and development. It allows us to assess whether we are living in harmony with our principles, to learn from our experiences, and to make conscious choices that align with the Stoic path of virtue. Through daily reflection, we can foster wisdom, improve our emotional well-being, and live more purposefully, one day at a time. By making this practice a consistent part of our routine, we not only deepen our understanding of ourselves, but also create a life that is intentional, virtuous, and filled with meaning. Number 10, build emotional resilience through challenges. Build emotional resilience through challenges is a central Stoic teaching that encourages us to view life's difficulties not as obstacles to be avoided, but as opportunities to strengthen our character and build emotional fortitude. The Stoics believe that challenges and adversity are an inherent part of life, and instead of being overwhelmed by them, we can use them as tools for personal growth. By facing difficulties with the right mindset, we can develop the emotional resilience needed to navigate life's ups and downs with grace, wisdom, and composure. One of the fundamental Stoic principles is the idea that we cannot control external events, but we can control how we respond to them. Challenges, whether they come in the form of personal struggles, setbacks at work, or difficult relationships, are often outside our control. However, how we approach these situations is entirely within our power. Rather than reacting with frustration, anger, or despair, Stoicism teaches us to embrace challenges as opportunities for growth, knowing that they provide us with the chance to practice virtue and become stronger emotionally. In facing challenges, we begin to build emotional resilience by developing the ability to stay calm and composed under pressure. It's easy to react emotionally when things go wrong, but the Stoic approach is to pause and reflect before responding. By practicing mindfulness and detachment, we give ourselves the space to choose our response rather than being ruled by impulse or emotional reactivity. This ability to pause, observe, and then respond thoughtfully is a key component of emotional resilience. Another important Stoic practice for building emotional resilience is negative visualization. The idea of mentally preparing ourselves for potential setbacks or difficult situations before they arise. By imagining the worst-case scenario, we can reduce the fear and anxiety that often accompanies uncertainty. For example, if we are facing a difficult decision or anticipate a challenging situation, we might mentally rehearse how we would respond if things don't go as planned. This helps us approach the challenge with a sense of readiness and calm, knowing that we have already considered how we would handle adversity. Building emotional resilience through challenges also requires a shift in mindset. Instead of viewing difficulties as personal failures or signs of bad luck, we can choose to see them as opportunities to practice patience, wisdom, and endurance. Every challenge presents a chance to exercise virtues like self-control, courage, and perseverance. The Stoics remind us that it is through adversity that we truly discover what we are made of. It's easy to remain calm and virtuous when life is easy, but the true test of character comes when we are faced with obstacles. For example, if we experience a setback at work, instead of becoming frustrated or discouraged, we can view it as a chance to learn and improve. Perhaps we can evaluate how we handled the situation, identify any mistakes, and figure out how we can approach things differently in the future. Every challenge is an opportunity to learn something new about ourselves and grow stronger in the process. Stoicism also encourages us to embrace the idea that suffering is a natural part of life. By accepting that challenges and hardships are inevitable, we stop resisting them and start focusing on how we can respond effectively. When we stop fighting against adversity and instead embrace it as a part of our journey, we gain strength and resilience. The Stoics believe that suffering, when approached with the right mindset, can be a source of growth and wisdom. This doesn't mean that we seek out suffering, but that we approach difficult times with the understanding that they are an essential part of the human experience. Moreover, building emotional resilience through challenges means practicing gratitude. Even in difficult times, there are often things to be grateful for. Lessons learned, personal growth, or even the support of loved ones. By shifting our focus to gratitude, we change our perspective on challenges and see them as opportunities rather than burdens. Gratitude helps us maintain a positive outlook even in adversity and strengthens our emotional resilience by reminding us that there is always value to be found, no matter the circumstances. Finally, building emotional resilience through challenges is about developing the ability to respond to life's difficulties with clarity, composure, and wisdom. It's about recognizing that adversity is an inevitable part of life and choosing to face it with courage and strength. By embracing the Stoic mindset of focusing on what we can control, our own thoughts, reactions, and responses, we can develop the emotional resilience needed to thrive in the face of challenges. With time and practice, we build an inner fortitude that allows us to navigate life's ups and downs with greater ease, confidence, and peace. Mastering your emotions is not about suppressing them, but about understanding and responding to them in a balanced, thoughtful way. Stoicism gives us the tools to stay grounded and resilient no matter what life throws our way. If you're ready to take control of your emotions and build unshakable resilience, start practicing these Stoic principles today. Thank you for watching this video.